probably going to need about 10 minutes this morning if the board will give me a little time. We were a little bit blindsided by the discussion last week. So, Captain Farmer, she's been at the jail for 23 years. 2000, she was certified as a Florida Model Jail Standards Inspector. And try to give the board a little history, if you will. The board will give me just a minute. I'll give a little history about how we got to this point with the jail, how the board took the jail back over, based on facts, official board minutes, and correspondence.
At the floor.
Thank you, sir. Approximately 6 months before he was indicted and removed from office, the sheriff turned the keys of the jail over to the county commission, effective January 1st, 2007. There were quite a number of problems at the jail at that time, notably the roof leaked, major maintenance issues, ongoing arguments over funding for law enforcement and the jail. What the county found most troubling was that only 5 of 12 officers were certified, a violation of state law, and that inmate welfare monies had been misappropriated to pay for equipment at the sheriff's office, also a violation of state law. The board hired Julianne Day and Rachel Turner, outside contractors, to perform a 2-day review of the jail and present a report to the board. They also hired Wilkerson to write policy and procedures and present a report to the board. The board spent approximately $20,000 on these studies, and after receiving the report, adopted as policy of the Board of County Commissioners unanimously on June 25th, 2007, to not adopt model jail standards. The report told commissioners that it would cost $1.7 million to comply with Florida Model Jail Standards. I just want to make it clear that during all these discussions that happened in open county commission meetings, I was not the jail warden, had nothing to do with the board's decision not to adopt Florida Model Jail Standards. Mrs. Day, the outside contractor, also reported that records showed that Gulf County Jail had never filed an inspection report since the program started in the mid-90s. After that time, Chief Administrator Butler reminded the board at the May 5th, 2008 budget meeting, and again on the July 21st, 2009 budget meeting, that the board was not funding the jail to meet Florida Model Jail Standards. Which brings us to last meeting, where Commissioner Bryan, with no prior discussion with me or my staff, called for an inspection of the jail for compliance to Model Jail Standards. This request or demand for inspection was in direct violation of adopted board policy, which can only be changed by the County Commission as a body. I stated twice that the Florida Model Jail Standard inspection would only be allowed following Board of County Commission direction or as a direct order from Chief Administrator Butler. Which brings me to the topic of Florida Model Jail Standards and what they are. Florida Model Jail Standards are approximately 71 pages of rules, most of which Gulf County already complies with as best management practices. Florida Model Jail Standards does not prevent liability or lawsuits, but is a tool or roadmap by which to operate a facility by. I believe the standards are well intended, that most of it is reasonable and sound policy. I do not believe that everything in Florida Model Jail Standards should apply to small facilities, nor is it written for that purpose. Although I was not personally a part of the decision in 2007 not to adopt Florida Model Jail Standards, I totally agree that if you have no intention of funding the money required to meet Florida Model Jail Standards, then you should not adopt them as policy. I'll give you 2 cases in point of jails that are governed by and inspected to Florida Model Jail Standards. Escambia County Jail. Despite Florida Model Jail Standards compliance and inspections that are up to date, Department of Justice reports that, quote, the jail routinely violated inmates' rights and segregates inmates by race, a violation of the law. Hernando County. This is taken from Tampa Bay Times article dated April 14, 2010. Hernando County taxpayers on the hook for millions of dollars. That's the headline. Hernando County Jail, a Florida Model Jail Standards inspection was completed in January of that year, and it was a glowing report showing no serious violations and a commitment by its administration to the facility. Less than 3 months later, a walkthrough by the county administrator and the sheriff of that county described the conditions as unacceptable and appalling. Several $1 million price tag to bring that up to code. The jail was being run by an outside contractor. The bottom line is, Florida Model Jail Standards, adopting them without funding is useless, and inspections do not guarantee compliance with Florida Model Jail Standards. Now, subject's very important to me. I have 15 full-time employees at the Gulf County Jail, and all have families that depend on them, and all have serious concerns about the loose talk and quote-unquote out-of-the-box thinking about outsourcing the jail to Bay County. I would like this board to put this issue to rest today. I generally don't comment on articles in the Star, but having read the article, or editorial as it turned out to be, which appeared on the front page of last week's Star, I'm compelled to set the record straight. First problem I have, quote, this is quote from the Star, $500,000 in savings based upon numbers provided by county staff, end quote. Complete and total falsehood. Fact is, the numbers provided by county staff to commissioners show that outsourcing the jail would in fact raise the cost. Based on my report to the County Commission dated July 29, 2013. Next, where did the cost per day of housing inmates at the Gulf County Jail come from? It was printed in the Star at $79.21 per day. Didn't come from county staff, didn't come from me. Next, the article went on to state that Gulf County pays $41 a day to house females in Bay County, but it did not clarify that that figure only covers the cost of room and board, not transportation, not medical, not any other cost other than actual housing of the inmate in Bay County. The article goes on to say that Hammond would, quote, run the numbers again, but those numbers have yet to be provided. Fact is, the numbers were provided to all board members and emailed to all board members in my report dated July 29, 2013. Next, the article compared my comments about refusing to allow a Florida model jail standard inspection at the jail with, quote, a profane outburst directed at a commissioner and that employee was terminated. Fact is, I was following unanimously adopted county commission policy from 2007 and made it clear on 2 occasions that if either the Board of County Commissioners or Chief Administrator Butler directed an inspection, we would have an inspection. To do anything else, I would have been violating county policy. And finally, we're discussing model jail standards, M-O-D-E-L, not modern, M-O-D-E-R-N, as printed in the Star. The county attorney has given you his recommendation on the law, which concurs with my statements at the last meeting. My request to the board today is that you vote not to outsource the Gulf County Jail. Give my employees peace of mind. I will continue to operate the jail in an efficient and safe manner that protects the taxpayers of Gulf County from liability and waste.
I would like not to put you on the spot, Mr. Levette, but would you come up to the podium and give us kind of an update on what you do over there? And I know Mr. Hammond just said that you've been there 21 years or whatever. 23. Let the public know how important that jail is to you. Would you do that?
Hey, good morning.
Fix your name.
Fix your name, Captain Yvette Farmer, the Gulf County Jail, a detention facility. I have been with the facility now for 23 years. I've enjoyed my job quite well, as you can see by the number of years. My years there at the facility, I've seen a lot, I've experienced a lot. My job is to help oversee the jail, maintain security, safety and security of the facility, the inspections and the jail itself. I think that it is run at this time by far the best that I've seen in a number of years. I am quite pleased with it. As with anything, there are some details and some things that can be polished up a little, but as far as the safety and security, I don't see anything at this point that is just life-threatening. I think we're doing a fine job.
Anything else from the board? Thank you, Captain Foster.
Yeah, thank you, Captain, very much.
Yeah, I have a few comments to make. The statute is clear, and it does require jails in the state of Florida to follow the model jail standards. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, and our attorney reiterated in his memo, there is no enforcement mechanism built into the statute. In other words, it doesn't state that you will be fined or that there will be any penalty for refusing to follow the jail standards. However, it does say you shall follow the jail standards. And in the jail standards, it requires an annual inspection. Now, Mr. Novak has provided us with a memo about the history of how this came about, and I won't get into all of those details, But this is a duty that was taken on by the state and the Department of Corrections, and they inspected jails for years. And the sheriffs of the state and the counties, Florida Association of Counties and the Florida Sheriff's Association, came together and felt that they were the proper people to be inspecting the jails, and that they would self-police. And they assured the legislature that if they were given that responsibility, that they would get it done, that they would form a committee, that they would develop these standards, and that they would inspect at a minimum annually each jail in this state, those run by the sheriffs and those run by the counties. If they cannot get that accomplished, they risk losing that authority and having the state come in and take over inspecting, because this is something that they've agreed to do on their own. It does not increase liability to have an inspection. Now, if we don't meet the model jail standards, we need to strive to meet them, and we need to work in every way that we can to try to get there. An inspection is not going to change the fact that we're not there. And if something happens in that jail, a liability exists because we are not living up to the jail standards. The issue has been raised by Mr. Hammond that an inspection would create liability. If we are not functioning properly, that liability is there regardless of whether we've had an inspection. The mere fact that we won't open the door and let an inspector in, you cannot inspect yourself. I appreciate the fact that Captain Farmer is certified, but you cannot inspect your own facility. There's no cost to have an inspector come in. I take this very seriously. When we incarcerate people in Gulf County, we take over their lives, and we need to assure that they are safe. The people of Gulf County deserve a jail system that operates under this requirement of the statute, and that is to strive to meet the model jail standards. And let's be clear that the jail standards are not aspirational, they're a minimum requirement. I do believe that it's a viable option to move the inmates to Bay County, at least for a few years, until monies can be gathered to build a proper facility. We have issues with the facility that we have. Bay County can book the inmates, they can process the inmates, we can function as a lockup. There's a movement across the country in corrections to have a regionalization of corrections, because the economies of scale make much more sense, and you would save considerable dollars building a regional facility. And you do not have to maintain a county jail in each county. There's nothing that says that. Now, these are things that we need to look at. We cannot continue to operate as a county and cut. We just cut our budget, we operate the same way, and we keep cutting. And that's when services drop, liability rises. We have to start functioning more efficiently, and that is how we will save funds. And this is a large project. This is not something that should be put to bed by this board. It should be examined, and the proper results should be discovered. That's something that's going to be done quickly. So I would encourage this board to continue to look at our options. The inmates in that facility have a right to be in a safe and secure facility, and the employees there have a right to be safe.
May I respond?
Yes, Mr. Mike.
Just briefly, if I understand you correctly, Ms. Bryan, you're actually willing to lay off or do away with 15 jobs in Gulf County. We sit here, and this board strives to put people to work. in Gulf County. I think I'm 100% correct on this, and I'm not going to get no fighting match with you or anything. But most of your campaign money came from Bay County, came out of Bay County. So I don't know what's behind this. I do know this. We have a perfectly operating jail with very little problems over there, gentlemen. And for us to bring this thing to Bay County, it's way too far out of the box for Mr. Michael Moore.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. I assure you that moving approximately 40 inmates into the Bay County Jail is not going to be a windfall for them. They have agreed to talk with us about moving the inmates there. They have space. This is not something that's going to be a profit generating. Is there a problem, Commissioner? No, I'll let you have the floor. Okay. So I don't, your implication about my campaign donations, it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. The 40 inmates moved to Bay County is not going to increase the profitability of their jail. They are willing to discuss with us and help us out. It's important that we provide a safe environment and that we cut our $1.2 million jail budget. We could have a substantial savings off of that $1.2 million budget. And all I'm saying is it needs to be considered. We need to look at it, and we need to look at it in detail. And I am working on the details of that plan. It's a big move. It's not something that I would expect the people on this board to enter into lightly. But I think we need to look at all the details.
Well, Ms. Bryan, I'm going to speak on that, on the moving of the jail. What would I tell my citizens who come up to me and tell me as of right now that turn on visiting day, when I get to visit some of my loved ones, I got to go all the way to Panama City. Some of them might not have transportation. So in incarcerating the family, we're going to punish, incarcerating the individual, we're going to punish a family member too for not seeing his relative for being incarcerated. I've been through the jail several times. I have not seen nothing out of the way. I think it's safe. I'm no licensed inspector, but I do have common sense. And walking through the jail, I really don't see what you're trying to describe. I'm not for laying off nobody. If I can help it, I'm not for laying off nobody. Right now, we're trying to create jobs for people, not lay people off. So that's just the way I feel about the jail myself. Anything else from any other commissioners?
One quick comment, Chairman, if I may. Mr. Hammond, just for clarification, 4 o'clock in the morning, one of Sheriff Harrison's deputies bring in an inmate. We got to have somebody there to...
That's correct.
Am I correct? We've got to have somebody there to receive this person in.
Yes, sir. I'm not a lawyer. We have a paid lawyer that gives you advice, but the state law says that the county jail has to book the inmates in the county where they're arrested. That's what state law is. And while you can't save money with this deal, I mean, it's an asinine thing. There's no county in the state of Florida that doesn't have a jail. I mean, we're not a charter county, but the figures that I gave you on that July 29th letter show that it costs more. And you want to talk about liability? Now, if you just have one person there to accept an inmate, you're going to have one person there with an inmate, or they may have 10 inmates come in. They may have a drug roundup and bring 10 in. You have to have somebody there 24/7 to cover that jail. And it's not just covering the jail. We do other things that are required by law. We have to register felons. When a sex offender comes to Gulf County, the first stop they have to make is to my office. They have to register with Mr. Buchanan, and then they have to come get fingerprinted and tell everybody where they're at and give them their address and give them their telephone number. When somebody moves into the county that's a felon, they have to report within so many hours of moving into the county. So there are a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. You can't get out of having a jail facility. Now, you could pay to house everybody in Bay County, and Bay County is a great jail. They spent $17.3 million on their jail last year. $17.3 million, which is 2.5 times your entire ad valorem tax levy for Gulf County. They run a great jail. It's accredited. We're not Bay County. And I can tell you this, I've been here 21 years. Jail runs better today than it has ever run. It runs more efficiently than it has ever run. And at the end of the day, this all boils down to, if a commissioner or someone wants to fire Michael Hammond, fire me. Don't take my other 14 employees and hold them hostage, because it's not even rational to have this discussion. If you want information before you throw bombs, you come and get the information of how we got here. It wasn't Michael Hammond's decision not to adopt Florida model jail standards. It's the county commission's decision. It is the unanimous policy of the county commission. Now, we meet virtually everything in that policy. There are some things that we cannot meet. And if you adopt that policy, I'm fine with it. I'm going to come back within the next 2 weeks and say, here's what you got to do to meet it. Now, are you going to pay for it? Well, I don't know. So my suggestion is, if you're not going to pay for it, don't adopt it.
Let me follow my question. No, that's great. I'm glad you brought that point out. All right, when the inmate comes in, Sheriff Harrison have to take one of his vehicles and transport that to Bay County, or do you have to do it? Who transports to Bay County?
Somebody's got to transport to Bay County if you were to close the jail, but right now the only things we do is female transports, and we can't send a deputy off the road for 3 or 4 hours. And
well, I'm looking at all these factors, and I have no obligations to anyone in Bay County. I don't. I don't. My lawyers do to Gulf County here, and that's where I'm going to keep it. But anyway, then if you had to get court time, you got to go back and retrieve that. You'd have to drive back, just like we house the females over there. And one of the reasons is the cost to house them here. It is cheaper in that sense to house a female over there. Am I correct at that?
Yes, sir. But the cost of a female, when the Captain Farmer got a call on Saturday, said we had a pregnant female in Bay County. We have to pay for all those things. It turned out it wasn't our inmate, thank God, because I was trying to get her out, because we tried to get them out as fast as possible. But that's just a fraction. Right now, a female inmate, and we have a great working relationship, and I talk with England all the time, and I talk to Sheriff McKeith all the time. I've never had a discussion with them about housing our male inmates, but that's beside the point. We have a bill right now from an inmate, it's in question, from Bay County Jail for $195,000 for one of the female inmates that was taken to the hospital and after she was released. But the $41 a day only covers room and board. It doesn't cover any other cost associated with that deal.
All medical, Gulf County is responsible.
All medical, anything else, that's right. They feed them and they house them and they clothe them, and that's it. At the end of the day, we saved money by housing females in Bay County by cutting 4 positions, 3 of which were unfilled, but Florida model jail standards, most of which, here it is right here, most of which we comply with, every bit of it, says that you have to have a female officer on duty 24/7. If you have female, we had a hard time keeping female officers, and that is a very high liability thing, and that is something that I said we cannot risk, and that's something that we house, and we saved $250,000 by housing the females in Bay County.
Mr. Michael, how many females were we averaging?
Well, we averaged 5. Last Monday we had 3. We had 7 yesterday. So it varies on a
How many
day-to-day
males
basis.
do we average?
Sorry?
Male inmates.
We average about 40. And our count this morning was 33, I believe.
Gentlemen, we need to put this to rest once and for all. That's just my opinion, and we'll take it from there.
One of the commissioners entertained me with a motion.
I would like to just respond to some of the comments by Mr. Hammond. First of all, I would like to put to rest that this is a personal issue. This has nothing to do with you, Mr. Hammond. This is a business discussion, and we are in budget time, so I'm looking at everything in the budget. In examining the budget and the $1.2 million budget for the jail, I requested information from the county administrator, Mr. Butler, and I believe he worked with you in providing that information. And you did provide the information, so you knew that I was looking at the jail and the way that it functions. So this wasn't something that blindsided you. I asked about the inspection. I was told that we weren't required to be inspected, and upon further research, I discovered that we were. In the meantime, I also was called by folks in the community who have concerns about the conditions of the jail. Now, I have loyalty to Gulf County, and that is why I'm approaching this. This has nothing to do with Bay County. If they took our inmates in, it's to assist with us. I'm sure that you know Sheriff McKeithen. He has a soft spot in his heart for Gulf County, and he tries to work with everybody in the region, as I'm sure Sheriff Harrison would take the same position. I think that we all work together. We're not an island. We should function with the surrounding counties and all work together. But as far as some of these issues that you're bringing up, you're just not thinking them through, and you're not looking at the options. The daily pay does cover the medical for the female inmates inside of the facility. It does not cover the outside medical. We would have to cover that anyway. If they were here or if they were in Bay County and they go and seek outside medical help, they have to leave the facility. We have to cover that either way. And we would cover that there, we cover that here. But yes, Bay County does cover their inside medical treatment. And as far as court, I've spoken with Judge McFarland. He does first appearance by video. He can work around this. Right off the bat, I asked him if this would be an issue for him, and he said that if it made sense financially, he can work with it. And again, you talk about loyalty. All it takes is one incident for this county to have just a tremendous amount of liability. And to me, that is loyalty to Gulf County. And there are a lot of folks out there that are concerned. No, I am not ready to put this issue to rest.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would say is we've looked at this issue before, and I think at the end of the day, we'd all like to be up to those model standards. However, I can't afford to put that on the back of my taxpayer without a plan that says that it'll save money. In looking at the facts, I don't see those savings. And at the end of the day, I appreciate all of us looking outside the box, because that's one of the things we talked about during the budget hearing is we got to think outside the box. We've cut from 13.6. We've said this multiple times, but I'm going to say it again. We've cut from 13.6 in that ad valorem budget down to 7.6. We've come to the point that it's hard to find more dollars without thinking outside the box. However, in looking at the numbers, I don't agree that it's a savings. I think that it would actually probably be a cost. And in looking at the report from the attorney, from Mr. Hammond, and all, I think that justifies this. I agree with the board in 2007. It said, the established board policy. I agree with that policy. I think we should proceed. I think we should continue to look outside the box. But this is one of the things that I just don't agree with the numbers, and I just leave it at that.
Well, I will continue to work through the options, and am happy to present a plan to this board in the future with all of the details worked out. And I, of course, would not want us to take on something that did not save us money.
One more, Mr. Chairman, and I will through. This is from, I want to just read it. It's two paragraphs, and looking over this, and if I may, I'd like to just read this. It says, the Florida Sheriff's Association states, as its goal for the MISU, that's the Florida Model, Florida Model Jail Standards Committee, is to develop and continually enforce model jail standards adopted by the group. And we're talking about the Florida Sheriff's Association, by that group. Currently, here's the kicker right here. Currently, in Florida, there are no statutory enforcement mechanisms through sanctions or penalties in place by which the Florida model jail systems are imposed. Now that one sentence there just about, yes, Florida associations would like you to be a part of it, but no, you're not bound.
May I make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we keep the jail in Gulf County and we put this issue to rest.
I got a motion by Mr. Michael Moore. Can I get a second?
I'll second it for discussion, further discussion.
Discussion by Mr. Yeager.
I don't even know if we need this motion. We've already got board policy, but that's fine to clear it up and go on, move on to the next issue.
And that's why I put the motion out there, Mr. Yeager, so there be no misunderstanding. We can come back to public records and review it. This is my motion to keep it in Gulf County.
Got a motion by Mr. Michael Moore, got a second by Mr. Yeager. Do I have any opposed? Do I have any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Attorney.